Let's talk about rice cakes. Welcome back to Sprung On Food. I'm your host, Kae Sprung. This season, we're talking about favorite food, the history behind it, and the role it plays in the world today. Joining me today is comedy writer and performer Rekha Shankar. Rekha, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I am very excited that you are here. You are a hilarious person, and I was delighted to hear about your favorite food. I will share an anecdote later, but I don't want to ruin anything just yet. It's rice cakes. I want to know all about your relationship with this food, why it's your favorite.
Yes.
Tell me all the things.
Okay. So I love chewy texture a lot. So like a chewy noodle. I remember the first time I had an udon noodle, probably in high school or something. I really liked that. And I feel like I've always just been discovering new types of East Asian food that I was like, where has this been my entire life? What's going on? And the one that hit me the hardest was the very first time I went to Din Tai Fung, which is a Taiwanese restaurant that has several locations in California. I was with a friend who was in the know, and they ordered rice cakes. And I never heard of Taiwanese, Chinese, and then like later Korean rice cakes, but it was like, what is this? I gotta try. And it was also vegan, and I've been vegetarian forever. So it was like, okay, this is sounding really appealing to me. And I tried it. I was like, oh, I love chewy. I love noodles. I've always been more of a noodle as opposed to rice girl, or even within Indian food, which, my family is all Indian immigrants, more of a flatbread person than a rice person. So I'm always looking for that starch that is not rice a lot of the time. So I was shocked that I'm like, oh my God, this other form of rice cakes, this like chewy, glutinous, like mochi-like texture, but in a savory dish. I was floored, and like that is like a desert island food for me. The Din Tai Fung Taiwanese like rice cakes with vegetables are so unbelievably good. That and like they're so good fresh. It's just an indescribable texture to me. I think it is called QQ, if I'm remembering correctly, that like texture profile that is so common with chewy,
Oh,
like mochiko kind of rice cakes.
I love every bit of this. How long ago did you say it was when
That
you went to the restaurant for the first time
that was
to
probably
have it?
2017 when I moved to Los
Okay.
Angeles. So it's too late in life for me to have had these, but we're working on the relationship now. We're trying to expedite. I'm trying to eat it as much as possible.
Yes, catch things up to speed. Well, I'm gonna make you feel so much better about your relationship with
Yes.
it. And so this was the information I wanted to withhold until at least you got to share
Yes.
your story. So when you had told me rice cakes, I said, okay, great. And then I started thinking about it and I was like, do you know what? Have I had rice
Oh my
cakes?
gosh.
And I had not.
Okay.
And so I got my ass down to a really cute Korean spot
Yes.
in K-Town. I'm in New York City and got what I needed. And Reka, my life has been changed, and I'm not kidding.
It's crazy. Why are we eating anything else? It's so crazy that we're not eating this every day.
I I was very I was flooded with emotions when I had it. I was like, first, delicious. This is great. And then regret of why the hell have I not had this for so many years? I could have been enjoying this for so long, but all this to say, I'm grateful for you.
Oh my
Thank
gosh.
you for this introduction. So you will forever be the person that inadvertently introduced me to this food. So
That is
thank you.
so meaningful to me.
Mm.
Wow, I really love that. A-
Yes.
And and the Korean rice cake, I think I came into even later than that.
Mm.
I think I only tried that for the first time like 4 years ago.
Oh
think
my
I don't
goodness.
know if I'm saying it right. Tteokbokki. It is
Yeah,
it's just now
I
when
know. That's what I had.
it's
Yep.
crazy.
I know. I know. Well, you're still 4 years ahead of
Oh
me,
my
so
God.
feel good about all of your
Yes.
advancements in food curiosity. You're nailing
Yes.
it. Yes. Well, to better understand and appreciate our food,
Yeah,
we've got to know where it came
I
from.
love that.
Let's get this straight right up front. Rice cake means very different things depending on where you are. If you're in an American health food store aisle, a rice cake is a dry, crunchy disc that squeaks between your teeth when you take a bite and tastes vaguely like regret and packing peanuts. But in Asia, rice cakes are a whole other universe. We're talking steamed, pounded, rolled, sweetened, sauteed, fermented, grilled. I mean, how dynamic is that? Most Asian rice cakes are made with glutinous rice, which, despite the name, is gluten free. It's sticky, elastic, and perfect for making doughs and batters that stretch and chew. Rice has been cultivated in Asia for over 9,000 years, and rice cakes have likely been around for almost as long. But as for who made them first, it might be impossible to prove and probably happening in several places at once. But let's take a quick look across Asia. China has records of rice cakes going back over 2,000 years, especially in ceremonial contexts. Korea's Tteok is mentioned in texts as early as the Three Kingdoms period, 57 BCE to 668 CE, though earlier forms likely existed before written history. And Japan's mochi shows up in Heian era texts around the 10th century. Now, let's take a step even further back, before dynasties, before New Year's cakes, before K-dramas made Tteok a snack icon. We're talking about the Austronesians. Who were they? Reka, do you know who they were?
No, but I'm getting chills. I have
Ooh.
to know.
Okay, I shall not keep you in suspense any longer. About 4,000 to 5,000 years ago, a group of seafaring people began setting sail from what's now known as Taiwan, equipped with outrigger canoes, stellar navigation skills, and a cultural starter pack that included things like bananas, taro, coconuts, and glutinous rice. These voyagers eventually spread across an area covering half the globe, from Madagascar to Hawaii and from Easter Island to New Zealand. They didn't just bring language, they brought a food culture. These Austronesian peoples developed some of the earliest rice cake traditions long before contact with China, Korea, or Japan. You see it in suman in the Philippines, lemper in Indonesia, kueh in Malaysia, and even taro or rice-based steamed cakes in Polynesia. These weren't copycat recipes, these were indigenous innovations, made using local starches, often steamed in banana leaves or wrapped in natural fibers. Think of them as the chewy building blocks of a starch-based civilization. And while China's influence would later layer on things like sweet red bean paste or wheat flour, these Austronesian rice cakes are proof that rice and creativity have always been BFFs. Especially when you're living on an island and your pantry is just what you can grow, catch, or trade for. Rika, it takes very brave and adventurous people to be able to travel out and do these kind of things. When it comes to travel for you, are you into being on the sea? Do you like adventure? What's your travel style like?
I love to travel. And my number one thing with travel is I have to eat everything I can. I
Oh,
love food travel and discovering new foods. The hindrance I have in a lot of places is I'm a vegetarian and I don't eat fish. And I've been vegetarian for like 24 years. So
hmm.
there's certain things I've just never had and probably never will. But that was what was so cool to me with rice cakes, because it's so rare as a vegetarian sometimes to get a totally new flavor that is like still vegetarian friendly. And I was like, this this just this just fucking rocks so hard. And like it is so cool to me the way food and agriculture and history all intertwine. Like, I would so much rather have like a historical view of a city or a country through its food than like a museum. It's just how it sticks with me better. Like, I went to Vietnam and I had the best banh mi I've ever had at this one spot in Hoi An. And something I learned for why the like bun tasted different there, the bread tasted different than banh mi's I've had here, is because of history and agriculture, where like wheat was really expensive and Vietnam was colonized by the French. And so baguettes were a thing, but people locally could not afford wheat. So if they did have a little bit of wheat, they always cut in rice flour to make it a little more affordable to make. So the
Oh,
buns and bread there in the banh mi have a chewier taste like you might have with rice flour. And I was like, I'll never forget that. And if I'm wrong, I'm so sorry. But that is what I remember from getting that banh mi and asking about it. And that is so interesting and cool to me. So like food to me is just the easiest way to experience places. And I love to travel for that reason.
I could not agree with you more. And also, fellow vegetarian here. So I totally get your I won't call it food travel issues. It's
Yes.
just it's a little bit of a mini obstacle
Yes.
because there are some places or some things, or especially in certain cultures, where the food is very, either fish or meat
Yeah.
heavy, and it is a lot harder to find those kind of naturally vegetarian dishes. So this was again another reason why I was very excited to discover this meal as well. And the same thing whenever I go to a new city or place or wherever, I'm a huge sweet tooth,
Me
and
too.
so I like to create my own unofficial bakery tours. And so I'll find all these different bakeries, either like,
Yes.
I don't know, top rated, but then I'll also kind of look within my area and try and just like Google
Yes.
Map and find the ones that maybe aren't being like written up about, because I have found some of the best what I like to call hidden gems, but probably like people all over from that city are like, girl, we already know. But I like to see and understand a culture in a city, I feel, through that lens in such a different way. So I'm right there with you.
I completely agree about bakery tours, especially. I'm a huge sweet tooth.
Mm.
I love, even when you said red bean paste, I was like, like I love red bean paste. So yes, and dessert is such a friendly category for the most part.
If you ever need a bakery list for a different city, you know who to
I
call.
absolutely will.
Well, before the convenience of blenders and food processors, early rice cakes were made using simple, intuitive methods based on observation, repetition, and tradition. The process that gave us the chewy rice cakes we know today likely emerged from a few key steps. First, cooking glutinous rice, which becomes sticky and dense. Next, pounding the cooked rice using large wooden or stone mortars and pestles to gelatinize the starch and make it elastic. Then shaping and steaming or drying the mashed rice into forms suitable for eating or storing. The pounding wasn't just for texture, it transformed the rice at a molecular level, making it soft, stretchy, and cohesive. In Korea, pounding mallets date back to the Bronze Age, 3300 BCE to 1200 BCE, and rice cakes are recorded in rituals and feasts from the Three Kingdoms period. In China, early rice-based ceremonial foods were documented during the Han Dynasty, 206 BCE to 220 CE, and steamed rice cakes were part of New Year rituals. These practices spread and evolved, but the basic concept remained: sticky rice worked into something festive and portable. Rice cakes likely emerged as part of ritual foodways tied to agriculture, harvest festivals, and ancestor worship. They were as much spiritual offerings as culinary innovations. Long before Michelin stars or mukbangs, these chewy treats were sacred. Reka, what do you think of the backstory of rice cakes so far?
I think it's fucking incredible. I love the bit about it being portable because
Hmm.
yeah, as someone that also comes from a very rice-based culture, like Indian cuisine is so hand in hand with basmati rice. Yes, it is not a portable food. You need a bowl or you need
Hmm.
like even to just cup your hands. Like it is a very spillable thing. So the
Yeah.
idea that you can make like steamed buns, like a portable thing that holds all your vegetables, or like buchi, like a little steamed like dessert or something that's just like very handheld friendly is so cool. I just love the way like food speaks to necessity, like whatever is needed at the time. And I love the ritualism behind it because yeah, I'm sure it's a ton of work to create that glutinous dough. So you don't want to be doing that every single day. You want to find methods to store it. or you want to do it for a special occasion. So I think that's so interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, what a workout. Nobody needed a gym
Yeah.
membership back in the day. They just needed to
Yes.
start making a meal, and
Yeah. Peloton is making rice cakes.
can you imagine ancient
Yeah, with
Peloton?
your instructor that's like, okay, so you're gonna want to bang this for an hour and a half.
Yes. Oh my god, the original Peloton, instructor influencer.
Yes.
Glutinous rice, who knew?
Oh, beautiful.
Now, let's take a rice cake cruise to highlight some of the different varieties across the continent. First, let's zoom in on Tteok, Korea's rice cake. Tteok isn't a single dish, it's a category with varieties classified by how they're made. Would you like to guess how many varieties there are?
7.
7. Okay, well, by Price is Right rules, you win, but there are actually over 200.
Cool.
Yeah. Yes. Well, don't worry, I'm not going to go through all of them.
Yeah.
But let's run through a few of the ways that it's prepared. There's steamed, made with finely ground rice flour, often layered with sweetened red beans. There you go. Dates or chestnuts. Pounded, the most iconic, pounded into elasticity with heavy mallets. Boiled, less common, but used in soups like Tteok, the traditional New Year's dish, and pan-fried, crispy on the outside, chewy on the inside. And as we had mentioned, tteokbokki is one of the most popular dishes today, made with saucy and spicy gochujang, and let's not forget sanpyeon, the crescent-shaped pine-scented tteok made for Korea's Harvest Festival. And did you know tteok was once made with barley? Long before glutinous rice reigned supreme, early Korean rice cakes were likely made from grains like barley and millet. Rice cultivation didn't dominate until around 1000 BCE, so in the Bronze and early Iron Ages, cakes from ground or pounded dry grains were the norm. Think of barley cakes as the chewy ancestors of the modern rice cake. Now, unfortunately, the 20th century wasn't kind to Korea. Japanese occupation, war, famine, you name it, and yet tteok endured. During the Japanese colonial era, 1910 to 1945, many Korean cultural practices were suppressed, including food traditions, but people quietly kept making and serving tteok, especially during ceremonial rituals and holidays, as a quiet act of resistance. Post-war Korea modernized. Machines started replacing hand pounding, a win for wrists everywhere, and mass production made tteok more accessible. By the 1970s, you could buy it boxed, gift wrapped, or in supermarkets. The chewy democratization of tteok had arrived. Rekha, has anyone ever gifted you rice cakes before?
No, and that's actually very messed up because my birthday was a month ago and
Oh,
I could have really used that. I actually on my birthday, I asked my partner, he's like, "Oh, what do you want to do today?" I'm like, "I would like to go to H Mart and buy rice cakes." So that
hell
is what I
yes.
did on my birthday.
Okay. So now we just need to get this clip circulating to
Yeah.
everybody that you know.
Yes.
And next year, hang on tight because your door is gonna be flooded with beautifully gift wrapped, all different variations, maybe 200 of
My God.
rice
I
cakes.
would love that.
Yeah, a girl can dream. Now, let's head over to China, where we'll find Nian Gao, which literally means year cake. In China, Nian Gao is the go-to rice cake for Lunar New Year, eaten for its symbolism as much as its flavor. Why? Because Nian Gao is a homophone for higher years, so eating it is believed to bring success and promotion. But Nian Gao isn't one size fits all. Across China, there are dozens of variations, and it shows up in wildly different forms. To highlight a few, in southern China, you can find sweet, brown sugar-infused steamed rice cakes, sometimes pan-fried with egg after they cool, made from glutinous rice flour, and often includes red dates or coconut milk. In Zhejiang, there's a similar version to Shanghai's Nian-Gao, often stir-fried with pork and cabbage. In Ningbo, the cakes are softer and stretchier, made from pure glutinous rice. In Shanghai, rice cakes are sliced thin and stir-fried with meats and vegetables. It's a comfort food classic, especially during winter or Lunar New Year. In northern China, the Nian-Gao here is often sweet and layered, sometimes with red bean or jujube paste. It's more festive and less common in daily cuisine due to wheat's dominance in the north. In Yunnan and ethnic minority regions, sticky rice cakes are grilled, wrapped in banana leaves, and may include localized ingredients. These resemble Southeast Asian rice cakes in flavor and format. So, yes, China loves rice cakes, and Nian Gao is both a culinary and cultural cornerstone. Now, let's check out Taiwan, which has a rich rice cake tradition shaped by indigenous Fujianese and Hakka influences. Fagua are sweet steamed rice muffins that bloom when cooked, symbolizing rising luck. Mochi, often filled with peanut, sesame, or taro. Wengua is a savory, bowl-shaped steamed rice cake topped with pork, shrimp, or mushrooms. And Hakka cakes are stuffed with vegetables and steamed, often eaten during festivals. Taiwan's rice cakes are as much about texture and tradition as they are about taste. Rika, what do you think about some of these really different variations? Were there any that sounded familiar to you? Any in particular that sounded interesting that you need to add to your list to try?
I definitely had a dessert rice cake sometime last year that had like kind of a brown sugar syrup that sounded similar to what you were talking about with
Mhm.
some of the Chinese rice cakes, and it was awesome.
Cool.
I've never had it with egg, and that sounds awesome, and I would like to try that. Also, like anything filled, I've had buns and bao, but I don't know
Mm.
that I've had like a chewy, like kind of that noodly type texture with a filling inside. And so I'd be really
Right.
curious to try that.
Yeah, in my mind's eye, again, novice here, but in
Yeah.
my mind's eye, I'm kind of imagining like a very savory, more complete. I guess for me, mochi obviously can be savory, but
Yeah.
I've really only eaten it in a more of a sweet application with a sweet filling.
Yes.
And so in my mind's eye, I'm kind of imagining like presented in that kind of sort of
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
but more of like a little almost, in the same vein of kind of like a burrito. It's a
Yeah.
vessel with
Yeah.
all of the ingredients packed inside, portable, as we've
Yes.
mentioned,
Portable.
which is key.
Key.
So,
Uh,
oh,
all business women in the chat are going crazy. We can have these portable things on the way to our big high power jobs.
this is great for marketing. Can you
Yeah.
imagine? Like
Yes.
hot boss women eat rice cakes.
Yes.
Yeah. Sweeping the nation. I can see it now. This is great. You get started on the
I
creative
will.
and, we'll call everybody in town and,
Yes.
oh, this is gonna be huge. Well, rice cakes across Asia may look different. Chewy logs in Korea, savory slices in Shanghai, sweet slabs in Hong Kong, or floral topped mochi in Japan, but they share common traits: a base of glutinous rice or rice flour, ritual and seasonal significance, and a texture that bounces back when you bite into it. Rice cakes have been around for thousands of years, evolving through dynasties, migration, and they'll probably outlive us all. So, next time someone calls a dry health food disc a rice cake, politely correct them, or don't, just smile and eat the good kind. Rika, what do you think of this whole backstory of rice cakes?
I think it's so freaking awesome. Every one of my favorite cuisines is from an Asian country. So I have this bias already coming in where I'm just like, every time I hear about like the history of some sort of food in Asia, I'm like, everyone is so creative. They're just like using the stuff they have. And I know this is how so much food is created, but I'm like, you're just taking rice and it transforms into something completely different than rice. Like you've essentially doubled the amount of food items you've had because you have
Mhm.
rice and then you have this alternative to rice that is just made of the rice. And everyone's just being so creative. They're using starches in such more interesting ways than anyone could hope to. Even it made me think of like fufu and like Nigerian cuisine and all these like things people do with starches that are so interesting. So I think I always like get a lot of shit from friends where I'm like, like basmati rice because I just grew up eating it so often. I'm like, look at what else people are doing with starches. The
Yeah.
bar is high. I'm like, even with an Indian cuisine, like check out batura, check out puri, check out naan, chapati, parota, some of my favorite stuff, uttapam. Like we got a lot of other stuff going on that isn't just rice. It might be made of rice specifically because I'm from South India. So I just think it's so interesting all the things that these different countries have done with one single ingredient. And it's like miraculous. I love it.
100% agreed. And I find that sometimes in certain episodes, the guests and I will talk about kind of this same mentality of how incredible and amazing that it is that our earliest recipe developers were figuring these things out. I mean, one, maybe out of necessity, but then also like what would like setting the seed, like what was happening where somebody was like, all right, I've figured out to gather this rice. I figured out to cook it.
Yes.
Then I'm going to smash the hell out of it. And then let's see what happens. And then create these things.
When I'm over here being like, I don't want to look up a recipe. You know, like it's like these people are inventing the idea of recipes. It's crazy.
Totally. Yeah, the innovation and just I guess I don't know, the potential foresight. I mean, I don't even know how you can imagine up in your mind's eye if bread or a rice cake never existed before, how that even comes into your mind's eye. It shocks and amazes me, and I'm just grateful that somebody out there has already done it.
Me too. And also, as you said that too, I find it so interesting that so much, like with Indian food, I find it funny because I have friends that are like, oh, I could never be vegetarian, but I love Indian food. Like you don't miss the meat in a lot of the naturally vegetarian dishes in Indian food. And I'm like, I feel the same way. Like I can eat gluten, but if I were gluten free and you were to be like, you could eat rice cakes for every meal, I'd be like, awesome.
Yeah. Problem solved for you.
It's naturally gluten free and it is unbelievable.
Well, rice cakes have made their way into mainstream and artistic pop culture. In 2001, The Runaway Rice Cake was published. This children's book by Ying Chang Compostine tells the story of a magical rice cake that comes to life during Chinese New Year, teaching lessons about generosity and community. In 2015, artist Anthea Hamilton created a glass sculpture titled Rice Cake, reflecting on the rice cake's transformation from a traditional Asian food to a Western diet staple in the 1980s. And Tteok has gone global. Korean rice cakes now star in viral TikTok recipes like spicy tteokbokki with cheese. You'll see them in mukbang videos, Korean dramas, and even as street food in the US. Rekha, are there any other pop cultural references you can think of with rice cakes, or any final words you have about your favorite food?
I have not seen a ton of it in my pop culture diet, which I think is bad. I think
We
that's
can change that.
I think that's bad. I think that's awful. I would love to see more Asian food in general on TV and in cinema because I think it is so good. And I think people have very limited ideas of what those cuisines are. Like, I think they think of Chinese food as one thing and Japanese food as one thing and Indian food as one thing. And again, coming from like South India, I find that in a lot of restaurants that my friends have been to, I'm like, oh, you're eating North Indian food. And a lot of people like don't even know that there's a difference. I'm like, oh yeah, South Indians have a lot more fermented food, whether that's because of humidity or whatever. I'm sure there's a really interesting history behind that. But you'll get like breads that are more made of lentils and rice rather than like flour, you know? And I just think there could be TV shows. What if, okay, I'm going to pitch a TV show.
Let's go.
TV show where maybe there's a bunch of funny stuff, but every episode I am eating delicious Asian food. I think that's actually really good.
So far I'm on board.
I
So
think
far
that's
I'm
actually
on
really
board.
good because it could be really healing for the nation to just kind of learn about different foods. I think that could actually be really helpful.
Yes.
Yeah, wait, okay, I'm gonna greenlight this. Yeah, give me a TV show so I could eat different types of Asian food, and I'll be really specific, and we'll do deep dives, and it'll also be really funny, and it'll win Emmys and stuff.
Hell yes. And because this was pitched on this podcast, I volunteer myself to help produce this show.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yes,
culinary
virtual
pastry
handshake.
producer. Yes, yes.
Done deal. Hell yes. No, I mean, this could be great. I mean, listen, people, first of all, let's take this apart. You weigh in how you feel.
Yeah.
I'll say this. No shade to anybody. I can't get into like these mukbang videos
Yeah.
though. Like I don't like watching. Now, this is not to disparage your idea.
No.
We're good. But
Oh.
like when it's just like eating like really
No.
close to the camera, I feel very uncomfortable.
No,
Like
my idea would be, it would be an Emmy award-winning sitcom, so it would be something
obviously.
like a Veep, but just every episode I get to
Ooh.
eat
Yeah, it's
some
worked
delicious
in
food.
there
It's just
in a
worked in there.
craftful way.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just kind of background happening. It just so happens the actor gets to eat a delicious, you know, scallion pancake in one episode, and then gets to have some bao in the next episode, and then maybe gets kimchi in the next episode. And yeah, it's just going to be like worked in there.
Hell yeah. And then whoever else is co-starring in there
Yeah.
is like, it's like, oh, hey, what do you got there? And then you kind of break out into like this, maybe
Yeah.
even break the fourth wall, and you look into the camera and you start talking about the dish and
Yeah.
what it is. And
I think
then
that's awesome.
and then they've got their little lesson, and then you just go right back into everything else.
Yeah, exactly. And it wins a
This
ton of
is
awards. I
good.
think it's going to be good.
It's gonna win a ton of awards.
Yeah, it's going to
Yes.
captivate culinary audiences. It's going to captivate
Yes.
like people who like dramas, people who like comedies. It'll bridge a bunch of like other, you know, sort of divides. It'll be really
Oh
good.
my God. A Nobel Peace Prize, maybe also. We'll tag
Probably
that on.
dozens of them.
Listen, this is great.
Yeah.
I'm very excited for this show to come out. I'm not kidding. I hope you're not kidding. But even if you are, it was a fabulous idea.
Thank
Rekha,
you.
thank you so much for sharing your love of
you.
rice cakes and helping me to tell its story.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad we could tell the story.
Thanks for watching. You can find links and more info in the description below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. See you next time.